All right, we're hot. All right, the sponsors. Head over to www.johnbartoloshow.com. Go check out all the sponsors. Gallo Technologies, Galco Holsters, Right On Metal, Right On Optics, Rhino Metals, Blackwater Ammunition. Special shout out today to Jay Cutler Nutrition. Shout out to him. We got the one and only four-time Mr. Olympia, full-time bodybuilder, Jay Cutler. Oh, we got to kill the... There you go. Kill that. Sorry about that. Four-time Mr. Olympia, Jay Cutler. So, we're going to dive right in. This is a special episode. Well, let's start with first. Let's get an Olympia update. Do you know where that is?
December 17th, I think.
And it's a go.
It's a go, yeah. It's at Planet Hollywood, new venue.
Stage show, everything.
New venue this year. I'm not sure the expo's... It's not happening in the convention center, but they talked about something happening inside the casino, maybe an outdoor, some sort of structure.
But they're going to pull it off.
They are going to pull off a contest now, whether it's audience or no audience, I'm not sure. Live stream will be there.
Well, didn't our righteous governor just announce you can have 250 people or some shit like that? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, the problem is even like the Raiders, right? We didn't have the celebration opening the stadium, and you know, what does it cost to have security and open a stadium for that short of people, right? It's not even worth. So you got to look at the cost versus the expense.
Ridiculous.
Of what bringing people in and being limited on space, right?
Now they're going to stream it though, right? They have plans to stream it and all that.
They'll stream it with one of the services, probably through the Mr. Olympia website or whatever, and
that's the best way, direct. Right?
Yeah, I think a lot of people will tune in from the living room, and I mean they used to do it years ago when it was on pay-per-view.
Yeah.
We bought it.
I bought it one year.
Yeah.
I was the guy.
04, 03.
Yeah, but that was when it was the fucking shit. It really was. No, it was. I'm not saying it to fluff you. It was.
No, I mean, it's, we have generations, and everyone has their opinion on generations, and I think this year's Olympia will be super competitive. Probably one of the more competitive ones in some time. There's a lot of excitement. Phil Heath's coming back. We got a new champion that's there. You have... Dexter Jackson finishing his career there. You have Flex Lewis coming in for his first open show on the Olympia stage.
Does he have a chance?
He does have a chance, yeah. He does have a chance. If you look at how much he's transformed, and we've never seen him over the 212 limit on the weigh-in day. So, I mean, if he competes in the 230 range, I mean, he could be very dangerous. You have William Bonnick, who's second, who's not the biggest structured guy, and he's second best in the world. And, I mean, he's probably a little bit bigger than Flex, but not much with height standard.
If you had a guess today, what does the top 3 or 4 look like? No order. Just what do you...
For sure, Curry will be there. I think Phil Heath will be there. I'd expect Bonnick to be there.
Definitely.
Because he's been second now.
And he's been shooting up like a rocket.
Yeah, he's just right there, so people are forgetting about him. But I would say definitely that'd be the top 3. You might have Dexter, who was 4th, I think, last year. He has a good shot. It's just, he may come out of, with his best showing ever to prove something, stepping away. Flex could be there, too. Flex could be top 3. I mean, Hadi Chupin was 3rd last year. He could be right there.
Flex is an interesting one. He's a wild card in that, just you don't know, like you said, what you're going to get. Mm-hmm. If he comes in that 230, 240 range, can he put 250 on? I don't know.
No, he'll be too high 220s, 230. That's going to be his.
Yeah, he'll be ultra competitive because he's so filled out.
Yeah, he's complete. And
complete.
When you get to that level, it's about who's the most complete and conditioned and best balance and a best showman, really. And Phil has the most experience up there besides Dexter Jackson, who's won it already. Phil, 7-time champ, coming back for 8. He's got something to prove. So it'd be great. Unfortunately, Sean Roden probably won't be in the show, so he won't be defending.
And it sucks in some ways to not have Sean there, but given that there's a little more time because it got pushed out, I think that helps flex too.
Yeah, I think it helps a lot of people because they're hungry. I mean, normally the show would have been done over, forgotten about by now, and now it's like it's extended till December.
In some ways, I think not doing the floor show, and I don't want to get lost on this topic, but like it's important to touch on it. I think in some ways not doing the expo is a good thing, Jay. We've talked about this because I think they almost have to get away from it being like a T-shirt and shaker bottle, expo. It's got to kind of evolve a little bit, and I don't know how to do that. I don't know how they do that.
Yeah, I mean, my era was no expos, right? So I came in '99 for the first Olympia at Mandalay Bay when they moved it here for good, and we had no expo. We ended up having some booths, I think 2000, 2001. There started to be like a mini expo. It was more just a few companies. It wasn't being sold as like an expo. And there wasn't as much commitment by the athletes. It was like you were coming to compete. That was your job. And unfortunately now it's such a business that you're required pretty much to attend outside activities other than just your job to compete at the show. And unfortunately, you go through the whole year's training with that one focus to be your best, and you have to peak on that day. And sometimes that's difficult to do.
Yeah. Is it crazy to you that the prize money and everything and even the sponsorship money's come down and the expo, like the thirst to have more booths, more products, more everything has risen? Does that ever surprise you that that's shifted like that?
The prize money's actually gone up. I mean, it's double when I was winning for first place. Is it still comparable to when you talk about being the best in the world at other things, other sports? Not necessarily. I think for the commitment that you put into bodybuilding, when you live it, and you train pretty much a whole year for that, the results aren't compensated. I don't think truly, but the sponsorships are down. Other shows, there's a lot of $10,000 contest shows, meaning you win first, you get 10 grand. There's a lot more than they used to be, especially internationally. But that's what is relying on the guys now is they have to compete in order to make a great living, unless you're just very savvy on social media.
When you competed, and I talked about this before, the thing was, and I like I said, we're friends off air. I consider us right. So I'm not fluffing you. It was loaded then. I mean, it was loaded. I mean, the 9 and 10 guys were studs. I mean, it was a different kind of show. That's why I think it could almost get away with just being a show and draw what it drew. I think they still need some form of an expo and some type of a draw because of all the different influencers that have come in, the different athletes that have come in, and you have to showcase them in some way. You have to give them some air cover. There's just so many supplement companies out there, and how you sift through all that. I was thinking about that a little the other day. There's just so many different companies that it's like, how do you choose? How do you select what's the best brand for you? I know you have a brand and you pride yourself on, not spending money in a lot of stupid places and focusing on making a great product, which I think is the right way to do it. But to anybody out there, and I want to transition to what I really want to talk about, what advice do you give them when they're selecting a brand to get behind?
You have to look at what the what the vision is. What anyone can create a brand, right? There's a lot of small brands out there. People see, the great fortune of being in the supplement, which is very saturated, by the way. But look at the people behind it and look at what the vision is and what the message is, right? But you do, listen, comparable products, we're all competitive and obviously has to be cost effective in certain categories. But just to go back a little bit, like you talk about the Olympia and, the guys seem to be sponsored by supplement companies, which is few and far between now because the brands are looking more towards spending money on social media. When I was up and coming, Joe Weider had us all under contract, and basically our whole goal was to qualify for the Mr. Olympia and compete. So we talk about unions and we talk about, where athletes are competing in like the Super Bowl, right? And that's the Super Bowl of bodybuilding. But many of us were financed no matter what to get there. So that's why when you say, you look at 9 and 10 and 11 and 12 and it was stacked up, the guys were being paid under contract. So there was some commitment to getting to that level at the Mr. Olympia that allowed, the athletes to train full time. Now, the guys outside the top 3 or 4, which, there's guys, Phil Heath he has his own contract. Dexter Jackson's not signed with a supplement company. A lot of guys don't have deals that are phenomenal bodybuilders and still top tier guys. So it just goes to show that, you kind of got to find your own way now. So it really affects things. So a lot of guys are making the decision, hey, I'm going to launch my own supplements, right? Because they have their own vision or their own thoughts on what an athlete will use. And when I started my Cutler brand, I looked upon, okay, what did it take for me to get to where I got to? And, let's start with the basics. And, everyone focuses on a pre-workout or amino product or fat burner, test booster, right? And then you slowly branch off from that. And for me, like, I'm looking at more health aspect now. Just launched a probiotic, working on digestive enzymes. We don't understand, when we eat so much food, especially as you get a little older and, your body just rejects a lot of things and you don't really even know you have issues with, whether gluten or, you do these tests to show, what is rejecting in my body. So, you have to look at that whole aspect and not just look at, okay, what can I get a paycheck from? Because I truly believe if you're not passionate about what you do, you're never going to be successful at it. It's never going to be long-term, right? That's why when I chose bodybuilding, I knew, I would do it for life, and I've retired and I still love to train. I've been training every day at 8 a.m. this week, and I still follow some sort of a meal pattern, and I still take the supplements, around the training, in the evening, and but more for the health aspect.
Yeah, I think, when it comes to supplements, I think people don't realize there's a lot of companies that take a lot of pride in the product that they put out, which I know you do. I've seen you. And then there's companies that just will throw anything out there and see what sticks. And I think that's a majority of the market. It's kind of, let's package it real nice. Let's make it look like cereal on the shelf. Let's throw it out there, and let's get a lot of people behind it, and let's push it. And it's exciting right now because we've seen some of the online, what I called like the online fad brands, kind of start to phase out, because I think people started to see through it that it was just an online fad brand. And we, I won't name names, but we've seen a few of those kind of subside. So now you see the guys, and I think bodybuilders and guys who competed at the level you did, retired guys, they should be at the top of the pyramid in the supplement business, because you guys did it and you know what works and what doesn't work and what to backfill in with your regimen, with your training regimen, and what's going to help you. And I think for the most part, just going with a big box chain or big box store, like you said, that's just cranking stuff out, it's a little like, okay, what am I putting in my body, and what am I taking, and why am I taking it? I've always stuck to the core 3 you brought up, like the protein, the pre-workout, aminos, kind of those core 3. Now a lot of people are dabbling in a generic multivitamin, which is great, because I hate to see the multivitamin market dominated by, gummies or, CVS brand or whatever is out there. I like to see you guys step into that, because I think, a vitamin is really important. That's something I've even taken your multi. I love the multi, and I think that's important. And you see a lot of these brands take so many different approaches. You have First Form, you have Redcon, you have Blackstone, you have so many different brands taking different approaches in how they market, how they develop their brand, the things that they do, and they've all had varying degrees of success. I've always appreciated how you go about it, because you have a very structured approach and you know what works. And that's one of the things that, I respect so much in what you do, because it's not, I'm just going to take something and just whip it out there and just see how it goes. And you had a vision, and you had a goal, and you had a vision for how it would even be packaged, how it would be set up, how it would be delivered. And I think that's the ideal way to go. You don't worry so much about being in every store. You want to be retail. You have a mind. This is stuff you obsess over, which is good, which you don't see a lot of owners, obsessing over that type of stuff, understanding the delivery system. And that's important, and I think a lot of guys out there right now that are competing that aren't getting deals, I have to ask it, how do you give them advice when is the best way to go to just start your own brand? Is it to align with a brand? What advice do you give a guy who's on the cusp?
No, first, you just got to build the social media, show the personality, have some sort of a following, and, anything can basically happen. So, your thought process shouldn't be, oh, what deal can I get, right? It's more of, what do I like? Try different things, but you have to get on the social media because that's absolutely necessary today. So if you don't have social media, especially Instagram or, Snapchat or these kind of things, or a YouTube channel, I think YouTube's a big player in gaining publicity. It's going to be very difficult because no one's going to know your personality, how you align with a brand. You can take and post what you're using, but be honest with your fans. I mean, honesty is the most important thing. And I think, if you look back on my career, I still do the same things I did 20, 30 years ago that I was doing on DVDs or videos or even,
I had some of those.
iPod, type, just talking on an iPod. I had deals like that. I mean, I did the same exact thing. I mean, look I'm still selling T-shirts with the same logo from the beginning, right? So I haven't changed a lot of things. Yes, I've advanced. I think supplements, like you talk about, what I used 20 years ago are much different from now because they've advanced so much and the ingredients have advanced. We were very limited. We didn't have great proteins when I started training. We didn't have pre-workouts. We used fat burners that were filled with ephedra and caffeine pretty much that are
Ultimate
now illegal.
Orange.
Yeah, I mean, you've had a lot of things turn illegal because, they actually work and the drug companies say, we're going to lock this down. So for me, it's just like telling these guys, I mean, I try to give people advice, just be business savvy, meaning relationships are the most important thing. So when you establish yourself, listen to what people do, watch what people do, but don't copy someone, right? I mean, you can get an idea. It's kind of like the UFC thing now. A lot of people have that Conor McGregor approach now and just being loud and vocal, but that's not bodybuilding. It doesn't work like that. You kind of have to let the body do the talking, and then as you progress, you can become more vocal, and people have the respect for that because you have the goods to back it up, right?
Right. Yeah, you were never.
I was never vocal.
Never vocal like that. I think you have to have a differentiator. That's the term I like to use. I think when you and Ronnie went at it, you guys both had your own differentiators. I look at even like in the podcasting world, you can't just rip off like what Joe's doing or certain people. You have to have your own shtick, your own way of doing things, your own interview style. And I think everybody has a place. There's plenty of ears to go around. There's plenty of mouths to go around. There's plenty of pockets with money in them. So everybody can take a different approach and be successful. I don't think you have to be a carbon copy of somebody else. I think you can dare to be different is probably the best way to put it, and be original and be true to who you are. You talk about YouTube, and it's something you and I talk about a lot. And I think YouTube is the ultimate equalizer. Today, when someone comes up to you, maybe a young buck, whoever, and I talk about this, we've talked about this offline, me and my team. Someone comes up to you and says, I have an Instagram, I got 150,000 followers, whatever it is. It's not enough anymore. It's not enough. And in the old days, 5 years ago, you'd be able to be like, oh yeah, let's do something. Now you have to, it's like fighting a war. You have to be on 2 or 3 fronts. You have to have, like you said, a Snapchat, a YouTube, maybe something else, a Twitter, whatever it is, but you can't be in one space anymore. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, I mean, if you really want to be successful and be someone that, people acknowledge, right? I started YouTube back in 2008. Before I was monetizing, before there was monetizing and all that. And, I started with the Swole Monkey Productions, and I started filming my workouts with a little camcorder. Unfortunately, my contracts kept me from continuing that because it became a media thing once social media came out after the magazines. So I was exclusive to a lot of media channels. And then, I got back on YouTube a few years ago with Cutler TV. And now, it's more the most recognizable concept of anyone knows me for is my YouTube videos. And why is that? YouTube is forever, right? Where Instagram, you can do your Instagram stories, they disappear after 24 hours. If you post a picture on Instagram, not many people scroll past the front page, so you lose a lot of the pictures from 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, a year down the bottom, right? Whereas you can type in YouTube, Jay Cutler trains chest, or Jay Cutler visits, California or whatever, and all the keywords bring that thing up, and pretty much it's there. So you can learn a lot, and you learn a lot about a person when the camera's on them constantly, not just your great days like social media, Instagram shows, right? No one shows the really, the bad days on Instagram. Right?
Yeah. No, and your approach, I've said it 100 times to people. I bring you up as an example all the time. It's genius because you're showing everyday stuff. And I think people overthink it like crazy. You know, we talk to 100 people. Oh, you know, they always want to, and I think in fitness, the mistake a lot of guys make is they want to put too many bodybuilding clips up. They want to make it all about lifting the weights. Listen, we know you're strong. We know you're in shape. We know you lift a lot of weight. We know you're going to grunt. We know the workouts are going to be badass. But I think once you get past that, it's kind of like the silliness of the gun industry. Once you get past the fact that the gun goes bang, what's the story beyond that? People are dying to know what the story is beyond that. I love watching the videos where it's just you chilling in the house, telling a story, or making eggs and hanging out and telling a story. I think that's the real people want to be in touch with the real person. And I think a lot of the mistakes people make on YouTube in particular, when you get into that longer form, you don't allow yourself to come out, and you don't allow you always want to give off the persona. And it always, I said it 100 times, and my team's heard me say it 100 times. Everybody's a badass in a 30-second clip. Everybody's a fucking animal in a minute and a half. Mm-hmm. When you start getting into 30, 40, 50 minutes, and you have to actually show who you are, it goes beyond the elevator pitch, and a lot of people, it's like crickets. Like they have cotton mouth. They can't get it across. And I think you have to start to think about what type of, you talked about this earlier, vision, person, athlete, how you want to be remembered, and you look at a lot of these, even athletes at the higher levels, A-Rod, other people, they're all doing shows now, whether it's on CNBC, other areas, long form. You're getting to know them from a business sense, from a marketing sense. And I think the quicker the industry moves that way, the more opportunities will be created for guys or gals coming out that they could step into other areas and start to succeed and start to do well. And that's where I think sometimes they falter. They want to make it all workout videos, or they want to make it all I'm a badass video, what I call like badassery stuff. Instead of saying, let me just be me. Let me just put that out there.
Yeah, listen, waking up in the morning, your hair's sideways. I walk in the kitchen, get a glass of water, first thing I do every morning. I'm half, my face still is sleepy looks on my face. And, I take the dogs, take them outside. People love that stuff, right? And then I'll do my jaywalk or whatever in the morning, or lately I've just hitting the gym. But, my clothes don't match. I got a hole in my sock, and, I was leaving the house this morning, and she says, you have a hole in your sock, and I'm wearing slides right now. I said, I don't care. It's me, I grew up on a farm. I mean, my sneakers had holes in them. So there's a lot. It's the real me, right? And that's what people want to see, is they want to see the real stuff and, how it relates to them, right? So when I crack an egg on the edge of the pan instead of on a granite countertop, people take notice of that. People notice how I grab a plate in the gym and how I put it on the equipment, whether I turn it backwards or the way facing me so the numbers read towards me, right? They want to see every little thing, and that's how people relate to what you do.
Every nuance. Yeah, it's important. Like I can actually, from your videos, I can actually picture you mixing your pre-workout and your stuff in the morning, because you do it so systematic. You do it the same every morning, and I think that's what it's all about. I think it's just about being real. Now, jump into other topics, and thank you for the update on Olympia. I think it's just important to address that. It wouldn't be proper. It's crazy because when you and I get together, people always think like we want to sit here and we want to talk about bodybuilding. We end up talking about all kinds of crazy stuff, conspiracy theories, everything. And it's one of the things you're passionate about on the side that I think hasn't shown through on JTV yet completely, but it's shown through a little bit here. And people still watch the old episode of us talking about some of that stuff. I think we could spend an hour on all the stuff that's gone on even recently, but I definitely want to address a couple of things since the last time we had this deep dive talk. So we have COVID, but along the way, we have the whole Epstein thing, okay? So this whole Epstein thing takes place, I think right around the time we were on last time. I think he was arrested. Maybe he had killed himself. And then Ghislaine Maxwell gets picked up in our old neck of the woods there in New Hampshire. How do you see all that playing out, and where does that begin and end, and how weird is that in Hollywood and in political culture and life, this whole pedo thing, because it's huge. I mean, now there's YouTube channels dedicated to hunting these guys down and everything else. Does she talk? Does she rat everybody out? How does this all play out?
Listen, I'm sure there's a lot of information that she has, right?
Tons.
I just think it was, it's kind of crazy where they never thought she was in the country, right? And she's in New Hampshire, protected, right?
In a mansion.
Yeah, and there was guards or whatever else there, right? Watching the media, it's hard, because I don't follow a lot of news. I just kind of hear like updates, and then
snippets.
You give me reports or whatever.
Full
right?
reports.
There's some truth to it. The question is how many people are involved and how many so-called celebrities are involved, right? And it's hard to believe that, it kind of, the news dropped off, right? Now we don't hear much about it. It's more of the presidential election and still COVID. I mean, I hear every day COVID cases are up, and then I hear they're down, and then I hear, okay, well, they're allowing more people to do this, and, this border's open, and I mean, I don't know. I wish I had the answer. I wish I cared enough to follow closely, but will she survive is that's
the $1 million question.
Yeah.
Does she live? And I think she has to. I think there's no doubt that they can't have this happening. You know what I mean? In the infinite wisdom of the powers in control, I don't think they can get away with round 2, right? But, what she says or whether there's a deal or something that gets struck. What interests me, because I watched The Vow on HBO. I don't know if you got into that show, but you got to. There's these like weirdo cults that pop up in these situations and these things. And I could spend, hours just talking about The Vow in itself. And that's like one that's like a Scientology thing. They suck the people in and they end up branding the chicks on the coochie and everything else. It's weird. And you see these pedo rings, and there was one just busted up in Georgia. I think it was like a couple hundred people were involved and kids were saved. And it's frightening because I think Hollywood's in trouble, Jay. I think Hollywood and the entertainment industry is in trouble because there's so much fallout from it. And we don't have to throw names around of who's involved, who isn't involved, people that are coming down on other people. But I think it's just at a point where you don't know what to believe, like you said, and what's real and what isn't. But it's so crazy to me because we grew up a little different. I mean, I can't imagine some of these people that have so much money that they have an island that they shuttle people to, and they stash them there, and then they're flying in rich and powerful people, and then there's now this whole theory that it's like they drink the blood or there's like vampire blood or some shit. It's crazy.
Yeah, being who I am, and I don't really consider myself, you talk about celebrity status, and I look at, celebrities, not athletes, right? I think of like movie people or whatever. And I've had my share of, mixing with those people. And, this has been going on for years. I mean, the whole molestation of younger kids, it seems like so much has come out of Hollywood. And I used to hear, I remember when I was kind of pursuing acting, and they're like, you have to do some things in order to get there. And that was always the talk. And that started when I was 18. That was 1991 too, when I first came to California, and I heard the stories back then. Well, if you want to make it, I mean, I even heard that in bodybuilding to a certain extent. But it was just so weird to me because growing up very sheltered, only being really surrounded by my family, we never traveled. As a family, we didn't go on vacations necessarily. We lived in a town of 6,000 people. I wasn't accustomed to hearing about these kind of things, so I was kind of in a shell shock when I went out to California and I heard there were such things that happen. And we've seen a lot of exposure over the years with, this whole, children and adults, having, some sort of relationships that weren't legal, right? It's crazy. So I think there's got to be some truth. And
oh, absolutely. It's how rampant it is the question. It's how bad it is, and how I think Hollywood's in a lot of trouble. and I said this on another podcast, I think that there are some good eggs, right, in everything. I think that there's some great people. Do I think everybody's running around snatching up kids? No. Do I think there's people that take advantage of any situation? Of course there is. That's. I mean, we saw that with Weinstein. But I think Hollywood's in trouble because I think they operated by a different set of rules for so long, and that's what you're getting at, is they operated by a different set of rules. And I think, we've always seen flickers of that even in fitness through the years, people that just did things differently in the fitness industry and for whatever reason and maybe took advantage of people or did whatever. But in Hollywood, it was almost ritualistic, which makes it like terrifying almost, to a point where, somebody might want to live the dream, take the trip out to LA, do whatever. And it's not necessarily LA, anywhere, get that opportunity, New York, wherever. And they get put in a position that their brain can't even comprehend. And that's what's terrifying about it. And that's where the conspiracies start coming in of how many people get sucked in and what that turns into and what that starts to look at. I can take the approach of there's blood on all hands. I think people agree to stuff that they don't, they get what's called buyer's remorse. They agree to it. They don't necessarily want to, but they do, and they put themselves in bad positions because we talk about that all the time. It's just how deep it goes and how bad it is in Hollywood. And I think there's a lot of people in Hollywood right now, especially in the entertainment business, that are running for shelter. And I think there's going to be a huge turnover as movies come back and who the Hollywood stars are and how that power structure works, because I don't have to tell you, you're out there quite a bit. LA's hurting right now, I mean, there's nothing going on out there. And I think people are terrified to put people in a movie or cast people because of how rampant it is. Now, whether or not she talks and lists get exposed and it goes into politics and everything else, that's a whole nother story. That's a podcast in its fucking self. But I think the reality is, Jay, I think that this is something that goes deeper than even all of us can comprehend, because I never in my wildest dreams could have comprehended an island that a guy was filling a private plane with kids, and flying them there so, they could all, be pee-pee touchers out there. It's bizarre to me. Like you, maybe you could envision it being like a little bit of a backroom casting call thing. Okay, I could buy that, like some of that going on. But the scale is what scares me.
It's sick.
It's terrifying. So, I don't have kids. I put that out there as a disclaimer all the time. I don't have kids, so it's hard for me to play that card of like, if that was my kid. But the reality is, you hate to see anybody get taken advantage on a level like that and have it turn into something that they can't control or they feel they can't get out of in any way, shape, or form. But I think there's, in many of these situations, and we've seen it come out, there's blood on all sides of people's hands too. I mean, people get into these wacky consensual things, and they wake up one day and they're like, how did I get here? How did this happen? They all of a sudden have like this selective amnesia. So that whole situation is extremely terrifying. And I know in the fitness industry, there was years in there where you heard a lot of weird stories of the way people lived and the way people did things. But I think that was just more like in small pockets, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's no question, in the fitness, the bodybuilding stuff was funded, it was early stages, a lot of the, the homosexuals were kind of funding it, and that was really what was drawn, right? I can tell you through my years of experience, I mean, listen, I've been approached
million times probably.
Yeah, and, whether it be through email or, like face-to-face, right? And obviously, I'm a straight guy, so it's, but no one's ever overstepped the boundaries, you know what I mean?
Right.
So no one, said, hey, this is how it has to be, or you're not going to be successful. And that's the scary part is, when you're young, I wasn't a child, right? I was 18 when I came in the game. You're very impressionable, for that sense, and you want to make it. So when you talk about that, that amnesia, temporary, that's kind of what it is. Okay, my vision is to the top. How am I going to get there? But I can promise you there's no shortcuts, to the top. And if I wasn't getting there through hard work and the commitment, and if I didn't have the belief, to do it the right way, I wasn't going to go ahead and do it. That's That's one thing, is if it's not that difficult, I'm not that interested in it, anything I do in life. So when people sit there and say, oh, it just comes easy, nothing ever comes easy, especially when you be successful at something. And if it's not challenging, I'm bored very easy. So I need challenging things in my life every single day. You know, now that professional bodybuilding is to the wayside, like I'm very, very, I love to be challenged, and that's what makes every day like so great for me is I'm doing all these different ventures, and like I'm hit with these obstacles that make my days like they make it a little bit hectic, you know.
And it's good. Busy's good.
Yeah.
What do you think of? I got to get your take on this. This isn't so much a conspiracy theory, but I want to get into it because I talked about it the other day. What do you think of OnlyFans coming into the game? What are your thoughts on it?
I think it's got a bad rap, but I think it's actually great for people that want to. I mean, listen, we'll go on Instagram every day, put your stories up, post your content, and
Spend
get paid
hours.
nothing, right? Other than maybe back-end residual on whatever you're promoting. Sometimes, if you have nothing to promote, then you're just putting yourself out there, and you have a following, and now people want to pay to see that content. It doesn't have to be pornographic or you know, something. That's the problem, though, is that OnlyFans got that stigma, right? But you see now a lot of celebrities open the door to that, and it's becoming bigger.
I think my take on it's similar to yours. We actually had a big debate on it on the last podcast. I had a couple dads in here, and we were getting into it. It was fun. It was a fun conversation. We were talking about daughters and OnlyFans and getting into that. I think OnlyFans, a lot like you, is a great chance to monetize content. And I think that's what's intriguing to me, and it should be obviously intriguing to you. It's similar to what, you know, we see already in YouTube, but the ability to monetize your content and the ability to generate a revenue stream off of what you're putting out there, if you have the following, if you have the ability to drive the traffic to it, it can be something that can be incredibly lucrative. Look, I know people, and I'm sure you can rattle off bigger numbers, that are making 30, 40, 50,000 a month off of it, and they're making it fairly easily off of it. Now, you give a haircut, you lose about 20% or something like that. It's like 10 or 20%. You kind of give a slice back to them, which I think is high, by the way. But I think it's intriguing, and it has a bad rap. You know, I looked at it, you know, even for the podcast in so many ways. But I think open source, there's always a plus to open source, especially like you said, if you're driving something on the back end. Do you think they'll ever be able to overcome the negative stigma that they have?
They will when you get someone like me that posts up, check out my OnlyFans, and I'm standing there in normal suit, right? Other than, because I'll be honest, when I see a hot girl flipping through Instagram and it says swipe up for my OnlyFans and she's turned showing her backside, I mean, my expectations is, okay, you're going to see something
X-rated.
Not X-rated, but you're going to see something that, you know, is not something that the dads probably want to watch their daughter do, right? Meaning, even if they're just in a bikini and showing their backside or whatever else, right? I mean, I know a lot of girls, but a lot of it I think is texting. I mean, I've never gone on, so I'm not experienced with this. But I think a lot of them, they converse with people, and that's sometimes what people want too, is the communication. And I'm sure I could do great with that because, I mean, I have a club. I have a membership club. So I don't share a revenue with anyone. It's my own platform, right? And people join, and they get exclusive content from me, like training and diet tips, and I do live feeds every Saturday. So I have that kind of program set up, and, you know, they have the other platforms like OnlyFans, or even like Snapchat has that's like a
premium, and then there's Cameo.
Yeah, and I do cameos. You know, I do shout outs. I do that. And that's just basically, most of it's, hey, can you say happy birthday?
Yeah, it's a way to touch the fans.
Yeah, and they love it. I do lengthy ones there. But I feel like, you know, if someone's going to pay any kind of price, even if it's $7 a month, you know, you have to be able to give them the content that they want, right?
Of course. Yeah, I think it's a little, you know, I think the hard part is going to be, you have all these different apps like ESPN, everything else that are $9.99 a month. So what I say is, how do you compete with that, right? So obviously it has to be competitive content, especially for guys. If you're a gal, like you said, and you're showing something that maybe, it's triple X, whatever the hell, it's a lot easier to suck people in. That's why I always say women will rule the world, because it's easier to pull people in that way. And because you got a lot of creepers out there and everything else. I mean, X amount of following on every female is 90% creepers. But the ability to target the certain folks that you don't necessarily always get to through OnlyFans or through other avenues, whether it's through texting or through interactive stuff, that's going to be the difference maker in so many ways to monetize that part of the process.
Yeah, and I don't know how they're finding certain people, because I would imagine Instagram would block the views on someone saying, hey, go to this,
because they don't want you to leave the platform.
Yeah, so I don't know if there's a suggested on OnlyFans based on, the traction, where someone like me might have an advantage.
An explorer.
Yeah, I don't know. So there's a lot of unanswered questions that I would be, I wouldn't be experienced to speak about.
Like, I wouldn't be brazen enough right now to say, I'll charge $9.99 a month for the show. Like, I wouldn't be that brazen, Jay. Like, to me, I'd rather build it, and like, I don't have that kind of audience. To me, you got to be in the hundreds of thousands. You got to be in a certain space and in a certain climate. I don't feel I'm there to do that. Mm-hmm. But I do think that some people maybe they're there, and I would be curious to know how the search bar works, how the algorithm works, all those things, because that's what would be intriguing to me. But I do think it's a tool, and it's a tool maybe someone who's coming up in any genre, fitness, anything, that they can benefit from, that they can capitalize on, that they can use to generate some kind of revenue stream, maybe to fuel their passion, to grow their business, whatever.
Yeah, I'm not against it, to be honest. I mean, everyone has a right to do what they want to do, and they can put out content, whether it's X-rated or normal day-to-day things, and it's a platform. If people are going to pay to see it, then it's your business to feel free to do that.
What do you think of the whole COVID thing? Because we didn't get into this last time you were here, because it hadn't really hit yet, and how the COVID thing has played out, and how do you think it plays out and we come out of this?
I think it's real, but I don't think we should have done a shutdown for it.
Definitely not.
So, and the outcome is, I just think we're stuck in this for a while until a vaccine is developed, and the question is who's going to take a vaccine? I've never got a flu shot in my life, so I'm not lining up to take a vaccine. I know there's a lot of questions. If you want to fly, you're going to have to take a vaccine. I don't see how they can force people to do that. The vaccine needs to be tested and in process for enough time before the world has to take a vaccine.
I don't love the vaccine scenario. That scares the crap out of me. I wouldn't be the first to sign up for it for a number of reasons. I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but at the same time, I think the virus has diluted itself. I think over time, viruses just dilute themselves. They get weaker. I think the strain that's going around now is far weaker than the strain we saw 6, 8, 12 months ago.
We don't know.
We don't.
I mean, I know people that died, but those people were elderly or had health issues. I don't know any healthy individuals, like peers, that all of a sudden got sick, and that was, the issue. So it's really tough to say.
Yeah, it's going to be something that is going to play out. We're going to have to see how this all works, and how this all. Listen, it's political now. There's no question. It's political now, and how that shakes out, and what that means for whether it's shows, whether it's people, families, everything in between. I don't have all the answers, and I'd be just shooting from my ass. So I honestly have to take a step back from it and just say, I think after the election, I think a lot of the mask stuff might subside. I think we'll see a lot of the stuff get opened up. Whether or not people will choose to take off the masks is the same as whether or not people will choose to get the vaccination, whether or not people will choose to do whatever. So I think all of those things are important. I'm hoping that smarter people than I are making those decisions. That's all I can hope for. I just don't know what the end of this looks like and how that plays out. So I always ask every guest, how they see it playing out, and especially in your industry and how that looks.
Yeah, everything's postponed, and I don't see a swing until next summer, where things might be leading back to more of a norm. But we may never see a norm again like before. I mean, this is like the 9/11 thing. Flying was never the same. I mean, it changed the world forever, and usually these kind of things will do such a thing. I mean, it's definitely changed how we approach each day. I'm not a believer in the masks necessarily, and people will question, well, you're harming others. I mean, we're taking temperatures to go into certain places, and I do temperature checks every day. I have to when I walk in the gym, and
yeah, I don't believe in the mask.
Yeah,
I don't. And let me clarify it. I don't believe in the mask for the simple fact that I social distance. I don't shake a lot of people's hands throughout the day. I'm not somebody that's like, other than being in the gym, which is probably my most hands-on opportunities, I'm cleaning my hands, I'm washing my hands. You can't tell me that a cloth mask is going to reduce it by X amount of percentage. If you're going to catch it, you're going to catch it. Now, when I do jiu-jitsu, of course, you're much closer to people, you're more hands-on, all the above. But in the basic human interactions, we've seen protests, we've seen all these things, and you don't hear about hundreds of people got COVID today. And that's kind of my one hesitation. It's okay when we have these huge protests and everybody's running around, and we don't talk about, those people getting infected. And like you said, pre-existing conditions. So
there's just too many lies. Too many lies. I don't watch the media. Like I said, I only get reports from people that do kind of follow it a little bit. And, what I hear now is just it's just not as serious as what the expectations were. And I think we all walk around and say, I think I had it, right? Everyone seems to have gotten sick at some point.
That might be the paranoia, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, you might have the flu now is questionable whether it's COVID or it's not. And, I mentioned the temperature checks, and people say, well, you might not have symptoms, but you're still carrying. Well,
yeah.
I don't know.
And I don't know that the temperature checks help.
Well, it helps you realize that, if you have a fever, that's one of the major symptoms, right?
Yeah.
I thought it was sore throat for a while, and then I hear headaches now.
Taste.
I don't know. I hear so many different things, and then, you hear the death rate's X, and now it's a lot less than what they expected, and the masks do something, then they don't do anything, and what about when you touch your face, and, then it was alive on metal, and then it's not alive, it dies, and, right?
It's alive,
right?
It's alive. It's like the thing.
It stays on metal for X time, and we'll see. We'll see what this winter now. We're going into the fall season and winter, and now we got to worry about spikes again, and we're not through it yet. That's for sure.
No, we're definitely not through it yet. It's one of those situations that, again, the greater powers that be are going to have to make some of the decisions, and we're going to have to rely on their leadership to figure it out. I think closing the schools is preposterous. I think, the fact that, people are willing to shut down entire states at this point is preposterous, because you can't have the remedy be worse than the illness. You can't have that. And no matter how you slice it and dice it, I know people don't want to say it because it sounds insensitive. The reality is, we've lived through the frickin' bubonic plague. We've lived through endless amounts of things. You cannot have situations where you're shutting down states for months and months and months at a time. People can't do business. People can't do anything. Luckily, everything's found a way to survive. But, the reality is you have to move on.
Yeah, life isn't what it was, though. I can promise you that. Even someone like me that, I feel I have a pretty great life. I've been limited what I can do. The travel's been a lot less. you prepare your life to, I'm, mid 40s now. And, I kind of set myself up. Oh, so okay, after 40, I can do whatever I want. Well, this year has been kind of like I'm quarantined, and we're kind of stuck.
Yeah, I mean.
But everyone's in the same kind of boat, right?
Right.
Except for the ones that are going and traveling all over the place, going to all these parties and whatever else. I mean, but, bless those people.
Yeah, like we were talking about earlier, the entertainment industry took probably the biggest hit. Mm-hmm. That's the industry.
No movies,
no theaters. That's the one that
looks like they're back to filming films now, though.
Yeah, because they have like certain criteria, structure, and I get all that.
I was looking for the Top Gun release. Now they postponed it to next year.
Yeah, but do you
think the Halloween stuff too?
The Halloween stuff I'm waiting on. But do you think Top Gun's going to even be good?
It's going to be good in the sense that, when they did it in 85, I think it was 85, they did Top Gun, or 86.
I feel like it's a nostalgia play.
Man, but like that movie was everything to me in 7th, 8th grade, I mean, I wanted to be a pilot.
I just wanted to play volleyball on the beach.
Well, I wanted to. That's when I first looked at California, like, oh my gosh, San Diego, and the tan, being a tan outside, and the guy's in good shape, and Tom Cruise flying down, chasing the fighter plane with his Ninja 1000, right? That's why I'm looking forward to seeing it, because you have that.
But are there certain movies you can't go back and do again? Like, are there certain, like they talk about Jaws, right? You can't go back and...
No, the original, I mean, the remakes aren't as good sometimes on some of these films. I mean, I watched Pet Sematary.
Fucking horrible.
It wasn't like the original, right? The original was like truly scary and...
Terrifying.
Yeah.
Fucking terrifying.
I mean, there's so many we could go... The list goes on and on. I mean, the original Halloweens were amazing, but they did... the latest one prior to what's going to be launched now was pretty good, man. I'm not going to lie. Although now Michael Myers is like superhuman, right? And he seems to be stronger than anyone. And
well, they made him a little more human in this one, I thought. Anyway.
Yeah, but he crushed the guy's head against the wall.
Certain
and,
shit.
No one can do that,
Yeah, it's the problem with Halloween is it's like 9 different timelines. So it depends which timeline you love. So they did the series of movies, and then they did H2O. And H2O denounced so many of them. And then they come back with this series, which basically denounces all of them, with the exception of the first one. It pays a little homage to the second one, from what I understand, in the new one. There's a little bit of homage there. And I thought the second one was good.
No, the second one was great because it just led over, he gets shot at the end, and he, gets up, and then he goes in the hospital in part 2 and kills everybody, right? And it was somewhat realistic. Like, he was just stabbing people with a knife, hanging people on the wall or whatever. It wasn't like...
I remember that.
He was twisting people's necks backwards and doing some Seagal shit,
Was he the best Halloween character?
Which one?
Michael Myers?
Yeah.
Was he the best all-around
I mean, villain? I think it was better than Jason. And listen, I was a huge horror guy.
I love horror movies.
Even like the original Alien, right?
The best. Terrifying.
I mean, I was even scared of Predator, like with Schwarzenegger. That was like...
Well, the thing that was beautiful about Predator, you know this better than anybody, Arnold at that time was on top of the world.
Yeah, well, he was jacked,
Yeah,
right?
He was the king of kings. And we had never seen a movie where the bad guy picked him up off the ground like that. And that set the tone for that whole final fight. Because when you see the Predator pick him up and he's off his feet, you're like, this is real. Like, this is going down. And the first time you saw that had never happened to Arnold. He was always the aggressor. He was always the big guy. He was always this. He was always that. So that set the tone for the whole movie. And I think they did the right thing ultimately by getting Jean-Claude out of there, everything, because originally he was cast.
Yeah, but what's funny is I watched Commando last week. It was on a rerun. And
there's so many things
I had a crush on Alyssa Milano, right?
Oh, boo!
So, but I used to think Arnold was so jacked in that film, and then watching it, I'm like, damn, he wasn't that big,
It's like 225.
But the movie was just very like
the log.
so unrealistic. And
How about the best is the guy he fights in it. When you go back and watch it with the chainmail and everything, like you're almost looking at it like, what the fuck?
I mean,
is
it's
going
so
on?
it's so poor. I
bizarre.
used to think it was like the coolest shit when I was 12 or 13.
The greatest bad guy in the history of the 80s was the Sandman in the John Claude movie. That was the best bad guy ever, the Sandman. He was amazing. He was the bad guy in like every movie, like 10 times.
Yeah.
All those movies, all those horror movies, we talk about this offline so much, so it's funny we're talking about it online. All those horror movies were so cool. Growing up in New England, Halloween becomes a part of your blood. So to everybody listening, you have to understand where we grew up, haunted hay rides, going to, all the different Halloween stuff, that's a part of your life.
So listen, I just booked October 7th. I'm going to Mass. Okay, I'm going to see my father, my mom, and my family. But we've already got Salem on the list. We got Witches Woods. They open up on the 2nd, so I planned it to go so we could do it because my show is not scheduled till November 7th, and that would be after, my show's in downtown Boston, so I would miss all the Halloween activities.
Oh, you got to go.
So we're going on the 7th. We just booked the trip to go, and $10. We do it every year. We travel to all these Halloween kind of
I would kill to go home to Salem.
But, we were kind of concerned because of COVID if it was going to – but they have some restrictions, so you just got to make sure you get enough tickets ahead of time. But I just talked to my mom, and she said that Salem's already, ramping up. It's on the news.
I'm going to look into it.
They're already ramping up for the visitations, right? I think people are going to, flock out like crazy this year. And of course, my mom says, I say, oh, my goodness, I'm so scared of you being out there because of these masks. And, what does that mean? So if you go out with a mask, do you have to wear a mask over the mask? That's the question, right?
You should get one of them clear ones, like the giant.
Yeah.
You should just go out in a welder's mask. You should just be like, Mom, I'm covered. I'm going out in a welder's mask. I'm all set. Just wear a Michael Myers mask.
I have it.
Yeah.
I was dressed up one year in the club.
You don't have the crappy one from Halloween 4.
No, I have an amazing.
I have the good one.
I have a good one with the hair.
The Halloween 4 one was terrible.
No.
That was the worst one. Now, when the horror genre, I want to get your take on this, went through its shift and we saw the Saw movies, the Scream movies. How did those resonate for you? Were they not good enough because they don't have the key characters?
No, you need the characters. I mean, the Freddy Kruegers, the Jason Voorhees, the Michael Myers.
Well, Scream had the
Yeah, but it was a kid.
Yeah. I think when they do supposedly they're doing a new trilogy, and in the new one, I hope they make it so, what's his name? Dewey?
Yeah.
I hope that, the theory is he's the killer. He's the real killer. I hope they do that. I don't know. Because then it makes an ultimate bad guy.
Yeah, I don't know. It was kind of it was good. There was some hot girls in that Scream thing, but...
They call them final girls. The girls that they kill at the end, or the last girl that makes it.
But I never got hooked on the Scream stuff like I did. The Friday 13th, the first, second, third, and fourth one were amazing. After that, it got ridiculously stupid.
Yeah, there's a whole dedication to that. They call them final girls. The girls that are the final survivors.
It seemed like, when I was growing up, it seemed like they always had hot girls in horror movies, and you hope they didn't get killed. I think that was the whole concept, right?
Behind,
how could they dare kill that hot girl?
You could go on YouTube, search final girl, and there's people that debate all day long who is the greatest final girl of all time. Obviously, always what's her face from Halloween? Always,
Jamie Lee
Curtis is always right there, and then of course Sidney Prescott from Scream is right there. It's who fits into that box, but yeah, that's a whole conversation in itself, who the greatest survivor is of all time. And of course along the way, all like you said, the hot chicks end up getting killed, and
Jamie Lee Curtis would be the longest survivor. She's an old woman now, and she's still running from.
The rumor is she might die. Well, they haven't said that she's her brother in this new timeline yet. They haven't said that. At least I don't think that they.
We'll have to ask Joe.
Because it wasn't until the second one that they said that, and Joe would know.
Joe knows everything.
Yeah, he's a wizard. Tomorrow we'll have to get into that. So listen. It's been an hour and 10 minutes. I fucking love this. I do. Talking about this stuff, it's great. What else you got planned? What do you got going on besides your show? And what else is
I
new?
got a couple appearances in October. I would like to take some time away and do some things because this year has been a little light with my travel schedule, so I'm not burnt out. Normally, by the time I get to this season, I'm just spent. My day-to-days, as you know, most of my time spent on the phone, running, whatever business I'm doing, and then I come down to my office space, which isn't too far from here, and then, I try to just, I'm getting the training in the morning. I'm just working on myself to try to find happiness beyond what I ever had before. That's kind of been my goal the last week, because I felt like I was in a rut. And last week I went to California to shoot a YouTube video, and I kind of did that to do the drive, the 4 hours out, 4 hours back. And those drives it's like a sanctuary time for me, right? It's meditation. And I kind of reminisce about, okay, what's going on in my life? What are my expectations? What's the future hold? And, what do I want to happen? And pretty much I can set my clock and just roll with things and pretty much create anything. So my true happiness is the time that I have now and be able to do the things that I want to do and not have a schedule that's going to allow me to do that. And even, like if you ask me, hey, what time? I never know what time, right? I don't live by the clock, and unfortunately it's very selfish, but at this point I don't really have to, I try not to commit to a lot of things. So if you said, what's happening, I'm not committing to a lot. For the first year I didn't have to commit to weekends of travel and extensive, on the road type things. I'm doing a lot of social media. I want to continue to work on the YouTube channel. And film a lot more content because that's what people want to see, especially during these times. I did a little talk yesterday on Insta Story, and I talked about, hey, I was in a rut. I'm finding my way out of it. I'm changed my schedule to do it. I'm just a guy, right? I'm just a guy that people follow for some odd reason. I think what I do is just a normal lifestyle, but some people look at it differently. And I'm finding my way to make myself happy.
Does it surprise you that your popularity stuck for as long as it has? Does that surprise you?
It surprised me, but, I did have a fan base that was 100% loyal, and I've gathered a lot of new people, and it's off my content. It's off what I've put out of my personality outside of the robot that I was when I was a competitor. And it's from the YouTube channels, from the bodybuilding.com documentary, The Living Large Trainer, my day-to-day social stuff, which I sometimes have to catch myself, like filming my dogs in the backyard or walking through my office, signing posters for a fan, shouting out certain people, doing my giveaways, or, trying to involve people. I mean, my fans become my friends sometimes. It's happened a lot with me.
I see that.
People have become close to me based on they started as purchase people on my website or people that came to the shows to watch me and support me, and I saw the faces over and over, and I'm like, you again. And then somehow we became intertwined, and they offered to help, and they just wanted to be part of something, and they've become part of my success and become friends in my life. And that's the most amazing thing, is you develop the relationships. And I'll always express the greatest tip I can give people is to always have the relationships, whether you like someone or don't like someone, or you don't jive with someone necessarily. Watching someone's life or getting tips from someone or being around someone, even if you think you're not relative to that person, you always learn something, and that's a key to progression and success.
Yeah, one of your amazing attributes that I talk about all the time, there's a couple things, takeaways in that, but one of your amazing ones is you never know what you're thinking when you meet someone or you talk to someone, or, and it's funny because knowing you a little bit how I know you now and having gotten to know you over the years, people will say all the time, oh, yeah, I'm out here, I'm going to train with Jay, or I'm going to do this. And I'm like, oh, really? Like, yeah, we'll see. Because I know you operate that way. You're on your time now, and you've earned that. And that's not to snub or snuff anyone. It's more just you're on your time now. And I respect that. I totally do. And I know that about you. That's why I'm usually like, give me a day and I'll block the whole day and I'll figure it out. Because I just love being able to catch up this way and rap with you. But I also, notice in you that you're picking and choosing your moments. And that's the biggest freedom. That's the greatest freedom. And, money grants you that. Wisdom grants you that. Clarity grants you that. There's a lot of different things that grant you that. It's not always strictly financial. Some, you've earned the right to choose your spots, and that's powerful.
Yeah, I think, for me, like I have on and off days, just like anyone. So if you called me last week and said, "Hey Jay, I want to get you to do things on Thursday," I don't know what my Thursday is going to be like and what my personality is going to be that day, because sometimes I go through highs and lows of depending on what's going on. Yesterday was just ridiculously. I was on a 4-hour conference yesterday. I was mentally burnt from speaking. And, I had people working in my home, and, I just didn't have the freedom that I would have loved yesterday. So today is a little more open, and, I don't, when I prepare for any conversation with people, and trust me, I don't talk to a lot of people, right? I don't pick up the phone and call a lot of people. I rarely get on the phone. And I don't have to prepare myself. Like people say, how do you prepare for a speech, or how do you prepare for, going to an expo and shaking hands with 1 million people? I don't think about it. I just walk in, and what you get is what you get. And sometimes I come alive more than others. And other times, like, it's like, shoot, I woke up a little sideways today. But one thing, I'm always in a good mood, even though I'm not smiling or energetic a lot of times. I'm always in a positive state, because every day has been successful for me, whether it's business, relationships, health, happiness. I'm excited to go back home next week, see my father. He's 91 years old.
God bless him.
I know as you get older, you realize how important family is, right? Not looking forward to the flight, but I'm looking forward to landing in Boston. And, I am actually going to stay in Boston on Friday and Saturday nights. So I'm going to stay in the city for 2 nights, which is awesome, which I miss. Boston's a great, great city. And I didn't realize it as much because I didn't go to Boston when I lived there as often. I left, Massachusetts at 25. And when I started promoting my events in downtown, I got to spend weekends there, especially in May and the fall, usually October, November. And those are the best times.
I miss Boston more than you ever know. I mean, we grew up in what I say is like a similar. We both grew up in Boston, but I grew up walking the city streets, and for me, I miss it more than you'll ever know. Sometimes, especially this time of year, what you're getting at, it's the best time of year to be there.
Yeah, I'm getting pictures right now. My friend's in Vermont, and he's sending me the pictures. And Vermont's changing leaves faster than every place else.
It's amazing.
And he's out there riding his dirt bike and like the back dirt track. And
I still think you'll get something there eventually. It might not be in the city.
My family's there, so I can go back and stay for a month or whatever. But I don't miss the winters necessarily, even though the winters have been pretty mild. Seems like
after December 15th to February 15th, it's god awful.
Yeah, but they haven't been as bad, man. It snows not like when we were kids. I mean, the blizzard is 78, and like I remember, it was 10 feet of snow on the ground or whatever. So we don't see those blizzards anymore. It's like,
but some of those were fun, the fireplaces and everything.
Oh yeah, I remember I used to have my ATVs, and I used to think, I can't wait for the snow, and then I realized the snow was too deep for my ATV to drive through, and I'm like, damn, they gotta come wait for my dad to come plow this driveway. I lived a mile off the street, which was crazy.
And we were crammed in 3-deckers.
Yeah.
In the city, we were crammed like ticks.
Yeah, we were in the woods, so it was awesome. I was cutting wood all year to get ready for the winters, and we would use our wood stove because my dad didn't want to use the oil.
It wasn't until I lived in New Hampshire, because obviously I had to get out the business I was in, that I kind of started to appreciate the outdoors more. But when the leaves change and you get that fall season, it's fucking amazing.
I remember my brother in high school used to make me, when I got my driver's license, he lost his license for drinking and driving, and he used to be like, can you take me to New Hampshire to buy beer on Sunday?
the state line.
What I didn't understand is, like, okay, Saturdays our liquor stores were open. why wouldn't you stock up and buy your beer on Saturday? Instead, he'd make me drive an hour to New Hampshire in order to go buy alcohol, you know?
And just so everybody knows, when you were a kid in Massachusetts, you would drive to the state of New Hampshire, not just to get your booze, because remember you used to get those full kegs, the huge kegs, but you would also drive there to get your fireworks. That was like a rite of passage, and there was always the rumor, they're stopping people at the border, they're going to get us, this is the year. So it was literally like the Smokey and the Bandit run, like, you know, you're eastbound in town.
You know what's kind of crazy, man, is like, we talk about the highways, like, you know, 495 or like Route
128.
2. Yeah, like compare them to like the highways out here. It's like nothing. There's like
they're 300 years old.
I mean, it's like 2 lanes. We used to say, oh yeah, we're gonna get on the highway. Now you come, you know, you got 4 or 5 lanes in Vegas and a carpool lane and shit.
So funny.
You used to think that. Like I used to think driving to Boston, oh my gosh, it's an hour. It's so far, and now it's like, you know, it takes me 30 minutes sometimes to get to the Strip from my house.
You're a lot like Tony like that. You'll complain about going 20 minutes somewhere. You're like, it's so out of the way.
It's 20 minutes from my house from here.
You're like, it's a journey. It's a quest. And I'm like, what the fuck? Because I like I drive like I'm driving Miss Daisy, but I like taking rides. But like you're funny like that. You'll be like, that's so far. I'm not going there. Like it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, you get spoiled.
You do. You need a tram. You need your own fucking tram. All right, listen. Let me get you out of here. I don't want you to complain. I try to stay in your good graces when I get your time. I try to pull the plug in an hour and 15. Believe it or not, I've been gone an hour and 30 almost.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll sit here all day with you, but, you know, I know how your time is. You'll be
I need to get to work.
You'll be like, this motherfucker hijacked me all day. Listen, I'm looking forward to it. Everything coming up. Olympia is going to be fun. And go check out Jay's supplement line. He doesn't need me to plug it, but go check it out. Cutler Nutrition. It's awesome. And if you haven't tried the multivitamins, I have. I still haven't tried all the proteins, but he's been teasing me with the cereal flavors. Go check them out. I want to thank everybody. Go leave reviews. I do a terrible job asking for them. Thank all the sponsors. Head over to www.johnbartoloshow.com. I appreciate all you guys. I appreciate everyone who supports the show. Reviews are helpful. Can't thank you guys enough. Everywhere podcasts are heard. We're out.